Good morning and welcome to the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. At this time, we ask you can please place phones on vibrate or silent mode. Thank you, Chair. We are ready to begin.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa, Chair of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. Thank you for joining us for today's legislative hearing. We will be hearing the following 4 pieces of vital legislation to protect public and private sector workforce. Proposed Intro 877A, sponsored by Councilmember Abreu. This bill would establish a comprehensive exit strategy for resigning and retiring municipal employees. Resolution 27, sponsored by Public Advocate Williams. This resolution calls for state action that would eliminate the sub-minimum wage for employees based on their disability or age. Resolution 0393, sponsored by me, which calls for state action to establish the Nail Salon Minimum Standards Act to secure higher wages and improve conditions for nail salon employees. And Resolution 574, sponsored by me, which calls for DDC and SCA to reconsider the use of concrete wall panels in place of traditional handset brick and block walls in light of the environmental and economic consequences. Today's discussion with the administration will focus on our understaffed municipal agencies that are struggling to deliver critical city services to New Yorkers. The City Council's data team calculated a citywide vacancy rate of 7.9% among municipal agencies in April 2023, with 26 agencies reaching a vacancy rate of 10% or higher. I look forward to a productive dialogue on Intro 877, which would require DCAS to create a comprehensive exit strategy for resigning or retiring employees. An exit survey would help us identify both the unique circumstances and systemic reasons for high rate of attrition. Once we identify the root causes of attrition, we can improve and recruitment and retention for our city workforce. Today, we will also hear 3 resolutions that touch on different populations and sector in our city's economy. These resolutions call for our city and state to close the wage gap for workers with disabilities, improve working conditions for nail salon workers, protect local manufacturing and trade workers. Each resolution supports the committee's mission to safeguard the economic well-being and safety of city workers. Although the administration does not comment on resolutions, I look forward to a collaborative discussion with members of the public on how government can help protect workers in their respective sectors. I'd like to thank committee staff for their hard work in preparing for this hearing, Assistant Deputy Director Nick Cano, Policy Analyst Elizabeth Arts, and welcome Rie Osowara, I got that right, as well as my staff, Chief of Staff James Burke, Legislative Director Kiana Diaz, Communications Director Frey Familia. Now I'd like to turn to Councilmember Abreu for his opening statement on his bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair De La Rosa. I am thrilled to have a bill being heard today, Introduction 877A, that would create uniform exit surveys for departing municipal employees. Questions in the survey would include, for example, whether or not they are leaving because of salary, remote work, caregiver responsibilities, conflict with management, lack of promotions, or if they face discrimination on the job. For the first time, we would be giving departing employees the space to share their experiences and give us as legislators the opportunity to solve some of the issues where we can. Currently, exit interviews are not standard across city agencies, and we're not capturing crucial information about retention issues our city workforce faces. I am proud to have the support of the 5 Borough Institute, which included this bill in their policy brief solving the staffing crisis. I'm also excited to have gotten some preliminary feedback from the administration and appreciate that we're on the same page conceptually and want to make this legislation as impactful as possible and make sure we address the refinements, which you included in your own testimony. So I want to thank you, and I look forward to hearing from the administration. And thank you again, Chair, for your support of this bill.
We will now hear testimony from the administration. Before we begin, I will administer the affirmation. Panelists, please raise your right hand. I will read the affirmation once, then call on each of you individually to respond. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee and to respond honestly to council member questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to recognize Council Members Menon, Dinowitz, and Moya on Zoom. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair De La Rosa and members of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. I'm Stella Xu, Assistant Commissioner for Human Capital at the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, or DCAS. I am joined today by my colleague Sylvia Montalban, DCAS's Chief Citywide Equity and Inclusion Officer, as well as Brian Geller and Zach Leiter at the Office of Labor Relations. On behalf of DCAS, I want to thank you for the opportunity to testify here today and delve into the important work that we have been doing to retain our city's most valuable asset, our municipal workforce. At DCAS, we successfully launched our first exit survey 8 years ago in 2015. The survey was then updated in 2018. The results are aggregated at the citywide level, and if an agency has more than 30 responses, it receives an agency-specific report. While the surveys are voluntary for employees, DCAS worked with their agencies to ensure participation. Those efforts include providing email templates for both initial notification about the agency survey and subsequent reminder to complete the questionnaire. Discussions with agencies about the importance of their employees taking the workforce surveys are held during our compliance meetings and our agency personnel officer meetings, and we also share best practices to maximize participation. In the analysis of the survey results for fiscal 22, we found that overall, nearly 80% of departing managers are satisfied with their experience working for the city, and some 3/4 are satisfied with their experience working for their respective agencies. The top 2 reasons given as a reason for departure were better job opportunity, 29%, and retirement, 27%. In the area of EEO, pursuant to Local Law 101 of 2018, DCAS is required to develop a climate survey to examine how familiar employees, including supervisors and managers, are with the citywide EEO policy. We gauge employees' awareness of their rights, responsibilities, and protections related to workplace discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, including the resources that are available to address these issues. The results are also serving to further the planning and development of enhanced resources, trainings, programs, and initiatives. Participation in the survey is both voluntary and is designed to preserve an employee's anonymity. Following the first release of the survey in 2018, CEI created a one-page document titled EEO Complaint Process at a Glance to provide information to all city employees on how to file EEO complaint and make them aware of the EEO investigation process. In 2020, the number of respondents who indicated they were familiar with the EEO policy increased from 92% to 96%. DCAS will be conducting the next climate survey in July of 2024, then every 4 years thereafter. Additionally, every year, CEI submits to the Equal Employment Practices Commission, or EEPC, a summary of the complaints filed with the city agencies for violations of the EEO policy. With respect to Intro 877, we look forward to discussing with the Council refinements to the text of the bill that will promote the effective use of exit surveys of city workers leaving their agencies. The city remains committed to ensuring that we have a municipal workforce that is ready and eager to serve our fellow New Yorkers. Part of Mayor Adams' overall plan to fortify our workforce includes our New York City government hiring halls, such as the one we co-hosted with Chair De La Rosa in her district last month. The hiring halls enable agencies to meet, screen, interview, and potentially make conditional offers on the spot to job seekers. To date, we have hosted 10 hiring halls, visited all 5 boroughs, and made almost 1,500 conditional offers. These hiring halls will continue to be hosted in various sites throughout the city on a weekly basis between now and the end of June. DCAS is also participating in an interagency working group tasked with reviewing the city's pre-hiring and onboarding processes to expedite cycle times experienced by job seekers. Please allow me again to thank the Council for the opportunity to testify today. We look forward to working in partnership with the Council and its Civil Service and Labor Committee to accomplish these goals. I'm happy now to take any questions the committee may have in relation to the role of DCAS in the exit survey process.
Thank you so much. First of all, let me just say that I appreciate DCAS's partnership on the hiring halls. I attended the one in my district, and it was successful. There was a lot of excited potential in the room that wanted to make sure that they could secure a job. And so that was heartening to see, given the crisis that we're facing. And I know that this council has not been shy about talking about the hiring crisis and the vacancy crisis that we are now facing. I wanted to ask some questions around the vacancy rates. The City Council's data team calculated that as of April 2023, there's a 7.9 citywide vacancy rate totaling 22,964 vacancies across government agencies. We know you're doing the hiring halls, but what is DCAS doing to address the bureaucratic hiring delays and expedite hiring across city agencies?
Thank you for that question. So DCAS is working with our city agencies on a number of initiatives, during hiring halls, which you know about, but we're also participating in an interagency working group that looks at the city's pre-hiring and onboarding process and looking for ways to expedite the process. We continue to publish civil service exams and lists and holding our hiring pools. On average, over the last 5 years, we hold about 180 civil service exams a year. We administer that to over 103,000 candidates, and we've established over 150 lists. We're also looking at ways in which DCAS can modernize civil service, such as reviewing our title, what we call MQRs, which are minimum qualification requirements to remove barriers to entry, reducing the test questions, as well as looking at more education experienced exams to make the process simpler for job seekers. We also,
Go ahead.
we also offer a number of workforce planning tools, the exit survey, which I spoke about, but we also offer agencies the workforce profile report, the salary benchmarking tool, which agencies can use to look at a title across agencies of similar size and function. And we also offer a retirement predictor tool that will allow agencies to look at 30 years of retirement data, make predictions for their own workforce planning needs.
Does DCAS have a methodology for identifying vacancies that are critical to agency operation that must be filled quickly?
Yes, thank you for that question. We work with agencies to supplement their efforts, their own efforts at recruitment and hiring. Agencies self-report to us into titles in which they have the most vacancies, as well as the titles which they consider critical. We feature those titles at our hiring halls. We target specific CBOs that may have a foothold on those industries, and we try to gather agencies with similar job titles together at a hiring hall to attract the candidates to come to those hiring halls.
Great. When was the last time that DCAS conducted an analysis of titles to identify new positions that have become difficult to recruit or retain?
So I think you're referring to the DCAS Hard to Recruit list, which is a list of titles that are residency exempt, and that's under the Administrative Code 12-121. That provision provides for the DCAS Commissioner to review applications from agency heads when a title is particularly difficult to recruit for. And we recently just added agency attorney titles to the Hard to Recruit list last year.
And so how often does the analysis of these titles happen within the agency?
So DCAS doesn't proactively perform an analysis. The Admin Code provides for agencies to request titles. So as agencies go through their process and realize that a title may be difficult to recruit, they make an application to the DCAS Commissioner.
The primary function of DCAS's human capital team includes recruiting candidates for city employment and helping city agencies to meet their hiring needs in a manner that is consistent with local, state, and federal law, as you know. However, in September 2022 PEG order, the Office of Management and Budget implemented a temporary hiring freeze until the office approved all agency staffing plans. What role does OMB play in establishing and implementing personnel policies for city agencies?
So OMB would implement a policy such as the hiring freeze, which was most recently lifted in December of 2022. And as of right now, agencies are free to hire up to their budgeted headcount, and we would defer to our colleagues at OMB for more discussions on this.
Is OMB still reviewing all new hires and promotions, and how much time does that usually add to the process?
The OMB review process is a part of our hiring process, and they review agency hiring and promotion requests that conform to labor agreements within 10 business days. And where they have to request a salary exemption, that review process takes place within 21 business days.
So from the time a person is offered a conditional job offer to the time the person is hired, how much time does usually elapse?
So it depends on agency process. Some agencies seek OMB approval before they make the conditional offer, before they come to our hiring halls. It's actually, we had that as one of our conditions at the hiring hall, that you have to come with OMB approved positions. Some agencies choose to submit to OMB after the hiring hall, after the conditional offer is made. So it really depends on the agency's process.
As part of the September 2022 PEG order, OMB promised to take steps to reduce delays in approving agency hiring for approval of positions. What concrete steps, to your knowledge, has OMB taken to fulfill this pledge?
So they recently worked with DCAS to update a personnel service bulletin on posting vacant positions. On that PSB, they added an appendix which outlined the timelines, which I just spoke about, 10 business days if it's within their pre-described limits, 20 up to 21 if we want to deviate. They describe conditions in which agencies can deviate, and we would defer to OMB on the specifics of how they're handling that process.
In DCAS's function as the Chief Personnel Officer, can you comment on whether OMB is delaying hiring in order to achieve budget savings?
Well, I'm not the Chief Personnel Officer, but thank you for the promotion. I think each oversight agency performs a role in, making sure the city works. This DCAS watches for compliance with civil service laws, or watches for compliance with labor agreements, and OMB has their own mandate.
Okay. The OMB director testified at a recent executive budget hearing that government's high vacancy rate was partly due to difficult labor market. However, union leaders have testified that they routinely receive overwhelming interest at government hiring halls and often have to turn people away because they've reached capacity. Why are unions reporting high volumes of applicants, yet the city's vacancy rate seems to remain stagnant?
Thank you for that question. So unfortunately, at our very first hiring hall, we did have to turn people away. For those applicants, we collected their resumes, we added them to our mailing list so that they can receive information about future hiring halls. And, to be honest, it was our first hiring hall. We learned a lot from that experience. We made process improvements. But in terms of matching the job seekers to the titles, not every title is suited for a hiring hall. These are titles that you can make on-the-spot job offers, but that screens out titles which may require a second interview with leadership. It screens out titles which require special skills and certifications, extensive background investigations, and also sometimes the job seekers come to the hiring halls with a skills mismatch. So we see a lot of job seekers with experience in the food service industry, and that's just not a type of title that the city has in abundance, so they may not find what they're looking for at the hiring halls.
I have a question. You testified that there have been 10 hiring halls and 1,500 conditional offers so far. So from the 1,500 conditional offers, have any of those folks already filled vacancies that were existent?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we did want to, last week, we followed up with agencies because they indicate to us not only if they made a conditional offer, but if a second round interview was scheduled. So last week, we followed up with agencies to say, hey, you said X number of people went for second round, X number made conditional offers, how many people, what was the results of those second round interviews, and how many of those conditional offers have been onboarded. Those results are due back to us this week, so we're hoping to have some for future data soon. I do want to share a story that at one of our prep sessions, a woman, this was our 4th or 5th hiring hall, I don't remember which, she was saying how much she looked forward to going there and recruiting on behalf of her agency, and it turned out that she was hired at our very first hiring hall.
Great. Yeah. Would you be willing to share that data with the council once you have it?
Yeah, we can take a look at that.
great, thank you. Some agencies, including the Department of Sanitation, Fire, and Parks, have relatively low vacancy rates, around 5% or lower. What best practices or procedures are in place at these agencies that enable them to recruit and retain staff?
So each agency have their own hiring practices, recruitment practice, and they have unique needs based on the population, based on the titles that they hold. Uniform agencies such as sanitation and fire have a large pool of uniformed employees who all have to pass the civil service exam. And we are proud that sanitation and parks have been at 6 of our hiring halls, and we look forward to continuing to work with city agencies.
Great. Has DCAS measured, so we have a chart of some of the top 20 mayoral agencies that have vacancies, and at the top of that list are Department of Small Business Services, Department of Buildings, the Department of Investigation. I know some of my colleagues have talked about some of the oversight and investigation, concerns with high vacancies, the Commission on Human Rights, Department of Social Services. Has DCAS sort of created impact matrix on the delivery of city services based on vacancies?
So each agency should be working with their HR offices to make sure that service impact is not delivered.
And if there are agencies that have severe vacancies like this, are we finding that employees are covering double duty?
I can't speak to the practices at each agency.
I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues for questions. I know that there's some questions specifically on the exit surveys, and then I'll come back. Okay, Councilmember Menon and then Councilmember Abreu. Oh.
Thank you so much. So I did have a couple questions. In terms of the remote work pilot, could you talk a little bit about that, and how do you think it will affect overall employee retention?
Sure, thank you for that question. I'm going to turn it over to my colleagues at OR.
Excuse me. Yeah, so the 2021-2026 DC-37 MOA included the creation of a work flexibility committee that includes the development of a flexible work pilot. We're still meeting with DC-37 at this time and hope to announce a final agreement on the pilot as soon as possible.
Okay, I mean, I just want to say for the record, I think it's very important to do so. I want to just say, for example, at the City Law Department, where there are tremendous vacancies, and I used to work at the City Law Department, you've got lawyers who many are moving over to the private sector because they're getting higher compensation. They have the flexibility around remote work. So I think it's absolutely critically important that we give flexibility to employees, and I just wanted to make sure to state that. A couple other aspects. I mean, so in terms of the pilot, how do you think it will then allow the city to better retain employees across all these different agencies?
So I don't want to comment on the ongoing process, but we're hoping to announce a pilot as soon as possible.
Okay. Moving along, does the city keep track of the number of applicants who identify as disabled?
Hi, I can answer for that. So disability is not really a category that is required for people to disclose, and there are a lot of implications about that because of the privacy concerns that individuals may have, or the incorrect perceptions that there may be about individuals. However, We have a process in the city under our reasonable, number one, under the reasonable accommodation process in general. If an employee has a need, certainly every agency has to educate their workforce on the fact that there is a resource for them to self-disclose in a private forum to their EEO office if they have any needs. But generally, no one is information about disability status is solicited. Obviously for concerns for privacy.
Okay, thank you. In terms of city agencies, can you walk through the city agencies that saw the most amount of resignations and retirements?
So unfortunately, that's not something that I have in front of me, but we're happy to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think it would be very helpful for the committee to see that. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Abreu.
Thank you, Chair. Does the administration have concerns about the implementation of Intro 877A?
So we've been administering this exit survey. We agree with the spirit of Intro 877A. We just want to have the opportunity to discuss refinements to the language and make certain definitions more clear to make sure that we're making the most effective use out of the intro.
Great. DCAS currently conducts an exit survey of departing employees. Currently, do all departing employees receive an exit survey?
All departing managers are given the opportunity to participate in the survey.
Got it. And those departing managers that do get surveys, can you speak to what's in those surveys? Like
Sure.
what information it captures?
Yeah, absolutely. So we ask 34 total questions, 16 of which center around their reasons for departure, and then 18 are just, quick demographics questions. So we ask questions about why they're leaving. We ask questions about what industry they're going to, how long they thought about leaving. We ask questions about their current working conditions, so that's if you feel supported by your supervisor, if you feel that your career options are clearly laid out for you. Just, questions to look at the workplace environment to see if we can get a clearer picture of why the employee is leaving.
Got it. And are these surveys voluntary?
Yes.
Does DCAS conduct in-person exit interviews, or are these like automated on computers?
Right now, the exit surveys are automated on computers. However, agencies may have their own exit offboarding process that may include a in-person interview.
And my last question, does the administration believe that the scope of the bill should be expanded to include employees departing under different circumstances? For example, should the exit survey be administered to employees departing due to layoffs, due to budgetary constraints, dismissals, or transfers?
So we believe that the scope of the survey should be expanded to transfers because if there is an issue within an agency, we want the agency to be able to see that. However, right now, the survey is administered to voluntary separations, and we believe that 877 should also keep it to voluntary separations so that people departing under less than ideal circumstances, their results wouldn't, just kind of skew the results.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
I want to recognize we've been joined by Councilmember Joseph and Councilmember Feliz. Any other questions, colleagues? Okay. I do have a question around you testified about the minimum requirements for certain titles. And I wanted to ask, I know that was a big part of also our speaker's agenda during the State of the City, and I wanted to ask, how is that process going, and what is the methodology that you're using to evaluate which titles will see a change or an update on the minimum requirements?
Thank you for that question. So right now, we're actively looking at changes to minimum qualification requirements to remove barriers to entry. I believe one of the titles that we're looking at is sanitation worker, but this is an ongoing process, and we look forward to sharing our results when we're at a place where we can speak definitively to it.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Thank you to the administration. We will now turn to public testimony. We will be limiting public testimony to 3 minutes today. For in-person panelists, please come up to the table once your name has been called. For virtual panelists, once your name is called, a member of our staff will unmute you, and the Sergeant-at-Arms will set the timer and give you the go-ahead to begin. Please wait for the Sergeant-at-Arms to announce that you may begin before delivering your testimony. For our first in-person panel, I'd like to call up Daryl Sims and Alice Wong. You may begin when the sergeant starts your clock.
Good morning, council members. My name is Daryl Sims, and I'm president of New York City Managerial Employees Association, and with me is Alice Wong, our executive director. I'm going to give a personal testimony because I feel it's very important, and Alice is going to follow up with MEA's, our combined testimony. I worked for New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development for 39 years, and I retired on January 1st of 2020, right before the pandemic. And I did an exit questionnaire the last day of my job. I stayed up all night because I felt it was so very important, because I worked for 39 years. And when I became a manager in January of 1993, I never received a promotion the whole time. And it's unconscionable that I had to do that. My work was, not being conceited, was very good, if not outstanding. During the course of my career, I was involved with probably 100,000 units in terms of rehabilitation as well as new construction. And I obtained tons of knowledge as a registered architect. When I started in 1980, I was living in a dorm at Columbia. The old timers that I worked with, they kind of took me under their arms and showed me many of the things that were important as a technical person. And so around 1995, most of them retired. But the things that stand out is that, there was discrimination and racism, as well as the politics within the city government agencies, and the idea that, I was more qualified than the people who were in charge of me. And therefore, they limited my advancement. I probably spent somewhere between $50,000 and $75,000 on legal fees going to court. I had a federal court. The first judgment was a hung jury. Second time I lost. And they used my conduct as a reason for me losing, because I complained about not getting the promotions that I deserved. I broke in staff who ended up getting higher positions than I. And it was nothing but racism and discrimination. And there's things that happen, and I think the exit survey is very important, but it's also important to have evaluations along the way. 1995 was the last evaluation that I received, and it was average because the person evaluating me hadn't worked with me. They were new on the job. So I think that, at the end, it's good to have, the exit survey, but along the way, there's a lot of things that could be picked up and made better for the people who are doing the exiting. So that's basically my opinion. I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Wong at this point.
Good morning. We would like to thank the committee for providing us the opportunity to testify on behalf of the 16,000 New York City managerial and confidential employees, which include MEA members. Based on our experience and the information provided to us by the Executive Board and our members, the MEA supports Intro 0877, which requires an exit survey for resigning and retiring city agency employees. An exit survey would provide a forum for resigning and retiring employees to uninhibitedly express their perspective and opinions regarding their employment at a particular agency. Adverse actions, unfair treatment, and discrimination complaints could be revealed and detailed by departing employees in these surveys without threat of repercussion and retaliation by supervisors and/or agencies. Information from exit interviews could be used by DCAS and the Commission on Human Rights to address detrimental actions and adversarial circumstances that have affected departing employees. Additionally, positive and favorable employee remarks regarding particular subject matter and exit surveys could be shared through DCAS with agencies as examples to take into consideration for improving policies, operations, and workplace conditions. It is anticipated that exit surveys will serve to identify conditions that require upgrades and improvements to make city government more attractive for those seeking employment and at a time to enhance the work-life experience for the retention of the existing workforce. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. I have one question. In your experience, either now as the president of the Managerial Employees Association or as executive director, have you heard of other city employees, municipal workers that speak to you about the obstacles that you faced when you were in city service, and have they commented to you about their experience with exit surveys?
We have not at the MEA level have had members do exit surveys because it hasn't been given to them or they haven't had the opportunity to do so. I am not sure if they were aware of the opportunity to take exit interviews, and that may be one of the obstacles that needs to be overcome.
Information sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, the thing that we've had members who complain regarding merit raises. And, in terms of when I talked about salaries and the idea of merit raises, that sticks with you the rest of your life because it's pensionable and it's also part of your Social Security. So when you're not giving the things that you deserve, it has a lifelong effect on you. And we've had members who complained about not getting merit raises when their coworkers have received merit raises. I know it's a little bit skewed off the subject, but all of these factors come into play and the reasons why people have incentive to leave. Like on my questionnaire, I put on it, I have it with me. I didn't submit it because it's personal. But I could have worked 3 more years, but it's sort of like, okay, there was a vacant directorship. I had to, been running my staff and everything. The person who was a director left. I asked, could I get the position? I was told no. And so, what's the use of me? I've already put in 39 years. Why should I stay another 3 years? It's the agency and the city and the citizens lost because I did work, and I appreciate the work that I did because I was helping people who were more like me than different. And that was what it was about. I probably would have left the agency many years ago, but my incentive was to help people. And I liked the work that I was doing as an architect. I made up my mind when I was in high school that I wanted to be an architect. And so that was what I did.
Great. Thank you also for sharing your experiences and your personal story. It's enlightening to hear. We know some of these things, anecdotally from other employees that share them, but it's important to also have them here on the record. I don't know if any of the other colleagues have questions for this panel, no? Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming
Okay,
today.
thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we're going to have a hybrid panel. I'm going to call for in-person testimony Ines Lane, Ray Rivera, John Bachensky, and Mike McGuire. And on Zoom, we're going to have Nicholas Carpelli. Oh. Ines Lane, you may begin when the sergeant starts your clock.
Yes, good morning. Thank you for hearing our testimony this morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Ines Lane. I work for the Bricklayers, Local 1, New York, and I'm a business agent for the Brooklyn and Queens area. I'm here today to give testimony about the precast panels over the handset brick and block. And the SCA and the DDC has been building a lot of precast panels all over New York City since 2018, more and more. In my area alone, there's about 5 jobs currently going up that's precast. With every precast job that goes up, just about 40 bricklayers are out of work with each one. So that's about 200 people out of work right there in Brooklyn. And there's these precasts all over New York City currently. And this is about, we want to ask the SCA and DDC to reverse building precast and go back to handset brick and block as soon as possible. Thank you.
Raul Rivera, you may begin when ready.
Is that okay if I'm last? Is that okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
John Bachensky.
Good morning. I represent Glenwood Mason Supply and Manufacturing, East Flatbush. We employ about 80 people from the local community. It represents a diverse background of employees there and their families. Glenwood has been in business or I should say the Sincata family who owns Glenwood has been producing block for over 100 years and supplying labor and material to the 5 boroughs of Manhattan for about that same time. So as Ines from the Bricklayers mentioned, precast panels have been proliferating in our city for the last 2 or 3 years. And those panels are in direct competition to the labor that is needed desperately in the city. With block not being used by the SCA and DDC, it puts a terrible burden on our plant and the surrounding plants that supply CMU concrete block to the city and is being substituted by these panels. And that's one of the main reasons that we started this coalition, is to make everyone aware of the jobs that are being lost on a day-to-day basis, both factory jobs that we desperately need in the city and labor jobs that we need. With this new green wave that's happening, the block manufacturers are now producing materials that are much more sustainable and much more greener than a lot of these precast units that are coming from other states, including Canada, which is another country that is putting a burden on us. So that's why we're here to support the resolution, and I'd like to pass it back to the council.
Thank you for your testimony. Mike McGuire, you may begin when ready.
Good morning, Chairwoman De La Rosa and distinguished committee members. My name is Mike McGuire. I'm the director of the Mason Tenders District Council Political Action Committee. In these difficult economic times, it's hard to fathom the thought processes of some city agencies and state authorities. It often seems as if the left hand has no idea what the right hand is doing. Just 5 weeks ago, Mayor Adams' executive budget revealed huge out-year gaps in fiscal years 2025 through 2027. And 4 weeks ago, Bloomberg News reported that the city is spending $8 million each day on much-needed relief for the asylum seekers we have so proudly embraced. Yet these agencies have chosen to use construction methods that not only cost more in the construction phase, but also undermine local area standards on construction wages and benefits, potentially eliminate local manufacturing jobs in our communities, and have severely deleterious effects on the environment. The use of precast masonry panels does all of these terrible things in one fell swoop, but despite the harm, are seemingly lovingly embraced by the bureaucrats at the SCA and the DDC. Studies have shown that the use of these panels cost the agencies between 1% to 3% more than traditionally hand-set brick and block. Deficiencies and inaccuracies in the manufacturing of the panels can cause major delays on projects, and these panels are generally manufactured out of state and even out of the country, undermining wage standards for New York City construction workers. The bricklayers have determined that the use of precast panels over hand-set brick and block eliminates about 40 bricklayers' jobs on each school building. That costs approximately 20 laborers' jobs as well. Those 60 tradeswomen and tradesmen are replaced by approximately 6 workers. As John stated, Glenwood is the last block manufacturer in New York City. It's a good outfit. I've been down there a couple of times since we started working on this project. I've talked to the workers. It's a good employer, but John can expound more on that if you have more questions. I'll go on to the environmental part. The environmental impact. The panels can be highly problematic. The manufacturing process for Portland cement is a huge polluter. According to the EPA, the cement industry is the 3rd largest industrial source of pollution in America. Unfortunately, in today's world, there's no viable alternative to concrete. We cannot eliminate the use of concrete, but we can minimize the impact by the promotion of smart policies. Precast masonry panels require a greater amount of cement, and that cement needs to be high strength due to issues of axial and shear forces, tensile strength, etc. This is what causes a requirement for higher strength concrete. High strength cement is needed for high strength concrete and is much more harmful to the environment to manufacture. Further, these panels are shipped hundreds of miles to New York City from a handful of manufacturers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Canada. The 2 agencies began using more precast panels in 2018 and very rapidly expanded their use, to the point that more than 70% of SCA school buildings are constructed with them today. It's 5 years later, and the agencies have not conducted any fiscal impact studies or studies into the efficacy or safety or the use of these panels. We have to ask, why would agencies tasked with improving our infrastructure proactively and unilaterally choose processes that undermine workers and honest businesses and are so harmful to our great city? Because maybe this should have been a hearing jointly with oversight and investigations. On behalf of the 17,000 members of the Mason Tenders District Council of New York and Long Island, not the least of which are the hardworking men and women of construction and general building laborers Local 79, many of whom are employed as Mason Tenders on traditional hand-set brick and block work, we fully support Resolution 547. Thank you.
Raul Rivera, you may begin when ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Raul Rivera. I'm a New York native. I'm a TLC driver advocate. I don't have anything written down, but trust me, what I'm going to say pertains to labor. I am the son of Puerto Rican parents, and we want this council to know and not forget about the contributions of the Puerto Rican here in New York City. The Puerto Rican has opened the doors for many, many immigrants, including yourself, council member. We have many council members in this city who are Puerto Rican. We even have a task force, which I don't know what it's for, but we have one. And these so-called Puerto Ricans refused to show face in January 21st, when we had a press conference, when the mayor of this city and the commissioner to the DOT was bigoted against the Puerto Rican community. I got a text from the mayor himself. Don't make a big deal out of it. They try to erase our name. We know next month we're having celebrations. Everybody's waving the flag. But I'm here defending El Boricua. Every day, 24/7, We are not merely Boricuas when the parade comes out. We know the mayor is going to have a celebration in Gracie Mansion. And a lot of those hypocritical politicians that call themselves Puerto Ricans didn't show their face. We do not have anything personal against anyone, but we advocate with truth. If you can't defend your people, you can't defend anyone. El Boricua has been here forever. We're not saying we're better than you, but we want respect. Our people have been through, they've been through hell and back. We lost fingers in factories. We've been shot and killed as bodega owners in the 60s and 70s. Been killed as taxi drivers. We demand that our elected officials to not go to Puerto Rico and try to represent us there if they can't do it here. Assemblywoman Reyes, Eric Adams, Galina Rivera, Margie Velasquez, all of them, you know who you are. We reached out to you and you didn't show face. We will not forget that. You can wave the flag all you want, but you dishonor your family and that flag. It was treasonous to have that flag, if you didn't know. We are proud of that flag because it was treasonous. This flag was created and designed in the Lower East Side. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very upsetting, very upsetting.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. I have some questions for the panel. I wanted to, you spoke a little bit about the job loss for, in your testimony, and I wanted to just confirm that the numbers are about 60 workers per project in the city?
John, you want to handle it?
Well, from the manufacturing side, there's just pressure. We used to have a second and third shift at our factory, and that's been reduced for many reasons. I mean, the SCA and the DDC, mostly the SCA, has produced 30 schools, either additions or new schools, out of other materials, which means that's pressure on us as a manufacturer in regards to not being able to produce material. As far as the job site, Bill,
Yeah.
Mike.
So on the construction sites, so the bricklayers have determined that, of course, it depends on the size and scope of the school job, right? I mean, bigger ones, obviously, there's more bricklayers, smaller ones, there's less. But on average, it's about 40 bricklayers per site. And then mason tenders, as you know, we're the Mason Tenders District Council, we tend the masons. The masons are the bricklayers. We mix the mortar, we build a scaffold, we move the brick and block to the mason so they can lay the block. The usual ratio is about two bricklayers for every mason tender. So for every 40 bricklayers that aren't working, 20 mason tenders aren't working. And then it ends up, you have these panels come in and they're hooked to a crane and swung into place and bolted into place. It only takes about 6 workers. Which the startling thing about that is when you think about it, the fact that this actually ends up costing more, where you had 60 jobs where that money is going into the local economies from those workers, down to 6 jobs. Where is that money going? That money, you might as well take those big trucks that ships those giant panels in, load them up with New York City money, and ship it back to Ohio and Pennsylvania and Canada, because that's where that money's going. It's going out of our economy into other people's economies.
We have one more witness for this panel, Nicholas Carpelli. He's on Zoom. I apologize. We'll come back to council member questions. Nicholas Carpelli, you may give your testimony once you are unmuted and the sergeant starts your clock.
Time has begun.
Has the clock started?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, distinguished members of the City Council. Thank you very much for this opportunity. As stated, my name is Nicholas Carparelli, and I'm the Executive Director of the New York State Concrete Masonry Association. NYSCMA is a trade association representing 15 concrete block manufacturers located across the Empire State, including Glenwood Mason Supply Company, Superior Block Corporation, located in Brooklyn, as well as several other manufacturers who also service New York City. In addition, we represent 25 associate member companies whose products and services support the concrete block manufacturing industry. The majority of those associate member companies are also based in or operate distribution facilities within the state of New York. On behalf of the members of the NYSCMA, I encourage the New York City School Construction Authority to reconsider its decision to replace time-tested, locally manufactured handset concrete block and brick construction with precast concrete panels. SCA's decision to eliminate the use of locally manufactured concrete block and substitute a product manufactured out of state and sometimes out of the country will negatively affect jobs not only in the New York City metropolitan area, but also in other areas of the state where companies that service the city are located. The ripple effect will be felt in companies found statewide that supply raw materials necessary for the manufacture of concrete blocks, potentially resulting in further job loss. The decision to utilize precast concrete panels in lieu of concrete block and brick also appears contrary to Mayor Adams' Executive Order Number 22. At a time when the mayor is encouraging job development in New York City, the decision to use precast panels rather than locally manufactured concrete block is not only sending jobs out of New York City to other states in Canada, but in some cases out of other areas of the Empire State as well. Given these circumstances, we respectfully request that the SCA reevaluate its decision to substitute precast panels for handset, brick, and block on its future construction projects. Respectfully, again, I thank the distinguished members of the City Council for the opportunity to speak this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to recognize Councilmember Nurse, who has joined us. I do have one additional question. So, you all held a rally outside of City Hall. I think it was a powerful manifestation of some of the morale that we're feeling among workers, right? That are recognizing that their jobs are kind of being shipped out as we stand here. So can you speak a little bit to like what the impact of the substitution of handset brick and block laying with precast and concrete panels for our city projects? What's the impact that this is having on our unions, on our city unions?
Thank you for the question. I'll take this one. The impact it's having is a lot of people is going to leave the union. That's what's going to happen. They're going to have no work because we need these jobs to put them on. And if there's no work, they're just going to leave and find something else to do. So they're going to lose a good paying job, and who knows what they're going to go and do. So that's really the impact it's having. I'm not saying that we don't have any jobs. We have some jobs. Even in these jobs, we got a little bit of work, like the staircase in these buildings, the precast ones I'm talking about. I have one job going on in Brooklyn right now. We have the staircase, a little bit of the staircase, and the elevator shaft to do. But it's only hiring 3 people. So, and not all the jobs they're doing that in. So what I'm really trying to say, it's just, the impact is just devastating. They're just gonna be out of work. We're gonna lose members. And the new people that we recruit, we have an apprenticeship program. We recruit new people every year. About 20, 25 people for the year to start being an apprenticeship and teach them the trade, to be bricklayers and get these good jobs. But if these jobs we're talking about with SCA and DDC disappear, we're not going to have any place to put the new people that's coming in or the people that's already there. So the jobs are just going to go, and it's happening already. It's happening right now as I speak.
And we, as a council, we've invested in apprenticeship opportunities, and so, we need to have places to place people after they complete those programs as well.
Exactly. So this resolution 547, it's very important to pass it, and as soon as possible, yesterday, if possible.
Thank you.
I wanted to add also from the manufacturing perspective, not only does Glenwood produce a material that takes sustainability into account, but many of the manufacturers that Nick Caparelli from the Manufacturers Association represent does the same. Glenwood also, some of their jobs can be considered green collar jobs, just by the fact that they use recycled content glass from the 5 boroughs, and they also take CO2 from buildings in New York City and inject it into their concrete block. And all that block that's made there and in the other manufacturers, it turns into a circular economy where we take waste, CO2, recycled glass from our 5 boroughs, put it into a material that's produced by local residents of the 5 boroughs, and then recirculated back into the built environment. And it's a beautiful model of a circular economy. So I just wanted to also add that.
If I may, just one more, since you brought up apprenticeship. You know, obviously, over the years, we've had issues with the makeup of the membership of the unions, the construction trades unions. I mean, Councilmember Nurse knows this probably better than anybody as she spent time in both our program and in the Carpenters program over the years. But here, you're looking at probably two of the most diverse unions in the building trades in New York. So it's rather unfortunate this is happening. But we need to continue to have this, like I said, we're shipping these jobs out of state. And on top of that, it's undermining wage standards because we don't know. So if you're on a job site in New York City, bricklayers' package is roughly $80 an hour, wages and benefits, something like that. Laborers is about $70 an hour, right? That money, when they get paid, you know, you're going back home up to Kingsbridge, you're going out to Brooklyn, you're going wherever, and you're spending that money at the bodega and the local supermarket and everything else. Down, you know, we don't know if they're paying $10 an hour, $12 an hour for these people working in these plants in Ohio to do this work. It's just basically, and again, the logic of this just doesn't make sense. So why are you shipping these jobs out of New York where the money could stay in the New York economy where we're struggling, where the mayor's like every agency's got to do a 4% cut or a 6% cut across the board? Why would the SCA and the DDC ship these jobs out of state and take that money away from New York's coffers? It just makes no sense. To bring it back, I know I've swung around, but to bring it back to apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is how we have diversified the trades over the years. Apprenticeship is overseen by the DOL. There's no more of the old school thing, oh, it's somebody's cousin, somebody's brother, somebody's uncle. That's how you get in. Now you get in through a lottery. The trades have become much, much more diverse. It's been a great thing, and we need to keep it. And if we don't have jobs coming up, we can't bring apprentices on just to put them in the union and have them sitting on the bench because there's no work for them. So the more apprenticeable jobs we have in the city, the more diverse the trades become. It's good for everybody. It keeps the jobs here, it keeps the money here, it keeps New York City thriving, especially in the wake of the pandemic when so many office workers are no longer coming to work in the city, in Manhattan anyway. You know, the economy in Manhattan's taking the bars, the restaurants, the delis, everything else, they're taking a hard hit. We need to keep these jobs in the city. And it's just, for whatever reason, these two, one state authority and one city agency have decided we don't really care.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
I just want to add a comment, really. Does your committee recognize the hardworking Puerto Rican here in New York? We have contributed so much through decades and generations. We help shape this city. We are even American citizens who don't get treated like an American citizen. We treated like a second-class American. My mother couldn't speak English. El boricua, el puertorriqueño aquí, opened the door. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. We opened the door for many, many immigrants, other people. I don't think you'd be cool if we went to Washington Heights and we start pulling down Pedro Duarte's name, or we went to Harlem and we start pulling down Marcus Garvey or Malcolm X. I think there would be an uproar. There was not an uproar when they did that to the Puerto Rican, and not only in Brooklyn, also in 6th Avenue. La Medalla, thanks to the professor in New Jersey, it was put back. We will be here today, tomorrow, forever. We are here. We ain't going nowhere. We are always going to be here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for coming and for testifying today.
I'd like to thank this panel for their testimony, and for the next panel, it will also be a hybrid panel. Zoe West, Pabitra Dash, Mina K. Rai, and Menu Simkata. I apologize for any mispronunciation, but for in-person panelists, we have Menuka Simkata, Minia K. Rai, and Pabitra Dash.
No, we just register for that, but we didn't realize that like we have to register, but only myself, I'm going to testify today. Sorry for this miscommunication.
Understood. Okay, Zoe West, who will be on Zoom, you may begin when ready and when you are unmuted and the sergeant starts your clock.
Your time has begun.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zoe West, and I'm the Senior Researcher of Worker Rights and Equity at the Worker Institute at the School of Industrial and Labor Relations at Cornell University. The Worker Institute is a labor education and research center in New York State engaged in research and education on contemporary labor issues to generate innovative thinking and solutions to problems related to work, economy, and society. I'm the lead author of the report Unvarnished: Precarity and Poor Working Conditions for Nail Salon Workers in New York State, published in April 2022 by the Worker Institute. This report maps out New York's nail salon industry and workforce and examines labor conditions in the industry and their impact on workers' lives. The report is based on mixed methods research, which included analysis of government data on New York's nail salon industry, focus groups with nail salon workers conducted in Mandarin, Spanish, Nepali, and Vietnamese languages, and a statewide survey of nail salons on pricing and number of employees. Our research found that New York has the highest concentration of nail technicians in the country and the second highest number of nail salons. These nail salons are micro businesses. 82% of them have 5 or fewer employees, and the industry is highly concentrated in the New York City area. In our 2021 statewide survey, 81% of nail salons were businesses located in New York City, Westchester County, and Long Island. We also found that the average prices of nail salon services in New York were notably lower than the nationwide average, in particular in New York City, where it was even lower than the average for the rest of the state. New York State nail salon workers are predominantly immigrant women of color, almost 85% identifying as women and 88% being foreign-born. Our research also revealed that nail salon workers in New York earn low wages and have limited access to workplace benefits, which are largely inadequate. As of May 2020, the average wage for nail techs working in the New York City metro area was $13.74, lower than the $15 minimum wage, and the average statewide wage was $13.87, also substantially below the statewide living wage for a single adult, which is considered to be $18.62. Many of the focus group respondents described enduring significant stress due to economic insecurity, unpredictable schedules, and the lack of benefits. This economic insecurity and social marginalization that many nail salon workers experience also creates substantial risk for speaking out about the unfair work conditions and labor violations they face. Our research suggests that many nail salons are not fully complying with wage and hour requirements and health and safety regulations. The focus group discussions also revealed that workers felt more empowered to speak out about labor conditions when they had access to training and skill building, awareness of workers' rights and protection, and access to collective rather than individual action. In sum, New York's nail salon industry is a highly competitive market of micro businesses that depends on a workforce predominantly made up of immigrant women of color.
Your time has expired.
Sorry?
Your time has expired.
Yes, you can finish. Go ahead.
It's a highly competitive market of micro businesses that depends on a workforce predominantly made up of immigrant women of color whose precarity make it challenging for them to speak out about the wage theft and other violations they face. And for that reason, our first recommendation based on our research was to use a sectoral approach to raising standards comprehensively across the industry to create a landscape where nail salons can improve conditions on a level playing field. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony. Pabitra Dash, you may begin when ready.
Good morning, council member and team. My name is Pavitra Das. I'm here today with my couple of leaders and our coalition partners, friends here. I'm a formal nail technician and a senior organizer at Adhikar. Adhikar, meaning Rights in Nepali, is a women-led community and workers center. We provide direct services to the Nepali-speaking community, and we do organizing for all of our Nepali who are from Nepal, Bhutan, India, Burma, and Tibet. Mostly we focus for Nepali-speaking people from different countries as well. A majority of our members live in Jackson Heights, Woodside, East Elmos, Corona, Maspeth, Sunnyside, Resort, Jamaica, and Flatbush. Adhikar with steering committee partners, Worker United and NICAS make up the New York Healthy Nail Salon Coalition. Our organizing has brought about multiple victories that nails the nation first nail salon worker bill of rights, ventilation requirement in all nail salon, and elimination of the sub-minimum wage for nail salon workers. But nail salon workers continue to experience exploitation condition on the job, and complaints to the Department of Labor have not led to significant changes. New regulation lack teeth when labor and health and safety laws are seen as optional in nail salon. Breaking the law has become the primary business practice in the industries wide in order to maintain profitable. Making is extremely difficult for any high-road salon owner to compete in such an environment. With little incentive for employers to comply with basic laws that protect us, nail salons have raced to achieve the lowest bargain prices to attract customers. COVID only intensified the workers' exploitation that is endemic to these industries. The broken system cannot be fixed piece by piece. We must rebuild with a new foundation centering those directly impacted by the industries. One of my friend leaders, Sweta Thakali, a nail salon technician in New York City and member of Adhikar, is hopeful about how this bill could change her life and the lives of other nail salon workers. There was a time when I was not sure if I would be able to stay in the industries because of how hard it is, she said. I'm not able to earn enough to build a security to myself in the future. Our income is not stable. We face discrimination. We work without breaks. We are guaranteed no benefits, and we work in unhealthy condition. But I want to stay in the industries. This is what I am skilled in. This is my career. We want to maintain these industries and keep it strong, so people don't feel like they need to leave. If anyone knows what needs to be changed, it's us who are in the industry. This council will give us the chance to be heard and win the ability to come to the table and speak up for what we need. Nail techs are typically immigrant women of color who are paid low wages, have limited alternative job opportunities, and lack social protection based on their immigration and our employment status. As a nail technician, I was at the fair front campaigning for the historical passage of the Nail Salon Bill of Rights in 2015 and ventilation bill in 2016, and continue fighting on this. And during the pandemic, only the everybody get their masks and gloves, but only the one optional for the nail techs have to buy their own masks and gloves and have to reuse and wash many times and reuse it. And during my career, I have 7 miscarriages in the industries because of chemical exposure, and that is not only one optional case for me. Many of my sisters are going through that cases, and I want to protect them, and then I want to save their life as well, and then establish their family life as well. That's the reason I stand for all the time to speak about nail technicians, and we need to pass this bill. And Adhikar with our coalition in advocate this resolution support pass the Minimum Standard Council Act, and we are really working hard for this because we want to fix something for in the industries, and we want to feel like we are human beings as well. As a woman, we want to establish so many things as family as well, and we mostly like single mom and then who are from immigrant, they are struggling a lot in the industries, and then there is so many hidden issues. People cannot come out and speak up. That's the reason I stand for many of our nail technicians very strongly. I am tired to speak these things many more, but I have patience to speak up because I want to change in the industries and see some changes in the industries. Thank you for your time and attention for these important issues for today, and I'm very thankful for you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony and for sharing your personal story, and we're sorry for your loss. It should not be something that any worker is subjected to in our city and in our state. I do have one question for the panel. Either one of you can answer, but I wanted to know, in 2020, the Department of Labor and the former governor ended the tip wages for the nail salon workers. So can you explain to us why is the Nail Minimum Standards Act still necessary in New York if New York has already ended the tip minimum wage? Can you explain the differences between what was asked for then and what we're asking for today?
I can give these answers if I get
Sure.
permission, because I was there for the campaign for whole time, and then we won for the minimum. We won the One Fair Wage campaign, but the worker condition is more harassed, and then the bad condition is start after that, because the implementation is zero, and some employer they follow the $15 hour. They paid for it, but they cut down their tips and commission. There is a rumor they make it is like, oh, we paid for them is $15. You don't have to pay any more commission and then tips. That's the rumor. And then tips is depend on client and then where they are from, because especially like who are from like different country and they do manicure pedicure in this country, they don't know about tip system in this country. So tips is depend on client. And then what happened after that is like they try to cut down their always not only like tips and like commission, they try to cut down their hour as well. And then our sisters, they keep trying to blaming us. It's like, you guys are the one who have to take responsibilities, but because of you guys, our tips and commission is cut down, and we didn't have enough time to work, and our hour is cut down as well. Supposed to be if they have to work 40 hours, they get now only 30 or 25 hours. And then we can imagine that like how hardly they are surviving this moment.
So
I'd like to add to what Pavitra is describing, because this is something that came up a lot in our research, is that the need for a comprehensive set of standards that are tailored to the issues in the industry, because you had incidents like Pavitra is describing where you have a very particular set of standards where you have commission-based pay, you have hourly pay, you have other set prices, and then you have as well the tipping. And so the way that the changes in the Bill of Rights happened, you ended up having certain things like maybe minimum wage got raised to $15 an hour, even though in some places it didn't, but then hours were cut so workers end up in the same boat, or tips begin to be taken away from workers because of this, right? And so the need for a comprehensive set of standards that are actually responding to the very particular conditions of this industry, and also that in an industry where you have thousands and thousands of very small businesses, taking wages out of competition by doing something like a sectoral approach can be very important, because you have an industry where there's a high number of small businesses and there's no single employer or no small group of employers that really controls the labor market. And when you have a sectoral approach, it brings together workers and employers and government to be in discussion about what are the conditions we're actually facing and how do we create a set of standards that are relevant to this particular industry and to the structure of wages and pricing and tipping, et cetera.
Thank you for sharing that. My final question, and then I'll pass to colleagues if you have questions. No, okay. What are some of the specific working conditions that you would like this council to know about and address? Are there specific working conditions?
I can take on beyond this, like in the nail industries, there is many sexual harassment is happen, because most of the nail industries, they carried like massage, and massage is one thing like mostly like where I can share my own story as well. When I was a new immigrant, I didn't know like there is a room massage. I went for a room massage, and the man, he asking for something else for me, and then I don't know like what I'm doing. I run away from room, and then he doesn't tip me, and then my boss says like, you are not fit for this for my salon, because most of my clients, they need that. Which is hiding, and especially in our culture, we don't talk about sexual things, we don't talk about harassment, we don't talk about reproductive health issues, miscarriages. This is very common. I see like not only my community, this is common for other community. And even though I heard about from American friends, like where I went for the training, while I start to talk about this thing, they don't text me, they try to text me inbox, because this is like, this is great you take out, but still we are hiding. That's why I learned from them.
Thank you for sharing that. Did you want to add something, Zoe? Sure.
Sure, yeah, I'd love to. So in our research, we found that as the wages being, of course, the low wages being one major problem, but also unpredictable schedules was a very big problem. People being, for example, called into work and then not paid because they were paid on a commission basis and no customers came in. And so this kind of combination of different pay structures, unpredictable schedules, and also a lack of benefits was a really big issue that really made the burden of low wages and economic insecurity even harder to handle. And so there were a number of labor, aside from wage theft, which was widely reported, there's also a number of other health and safety violations. And Pavitra spoke to the exposure to fumes and the very dangerous impacts in that particular line of work. But these health and safety violations were a big issue. And then also something that emerged very strongly was the risk of retaliation for speaking out, and that workers felt workers who had not had training in workers' rights or didn't have access to that kind of training felt that they faced the risk of retaliation if they spoke out about violations. And so in this situation, this was based on either having experienced retaliation or having witnessed it, and retaliation in the form of a worker being fired for speaking out, or sometimes even just having a reduction of hours, which then leads to a reduction of their already low income.
Great. Thank you for coming today and for sharing your testimony. It was powerful and moving, and we're proud to also today be able to listen to these resolutions and work with our state partners to make sure that we are changing the law so that these workers, you workers, can be protected. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience to listen these things, and it's
pleasure.
not easy to listen. It's not easy to share, actually.
Thank
but you gave us enough time, and I'm very thankful, and our team is very thankful with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Joy. Thank you for joining with me.
Thank you for your testimony. Our next and final panel will be Daisy Chung, Laura Maldigan, and Estoria Moran. Daisy Chung, you may begin when ready.
There we go. Thank you. Good morning. I think it's still morning. My name is Daisy Chung, and I'm the director of the New York Healthy Nail Salons Coalition. And the coalition was created in 2014 to organize for improved working conditions in the industry. Our organizations collectively represent thousands of nail salon workers in New York City, and we thank you for holding this important hearing on Resolution 393. I won't go into, I know that Zoe and Pavitra covered a lot of the landscape of what this industry looks like, so hopefully my testimony will fill in that a little bit more. But really, in terms of this resolution and the bill that we're pushing and advocating for at the state level, the Nail Salon Minimum Standards Council Act, what it will do is two things. It will establish an industry council of workers, small business owners, and government to really come together and figure out solutions to these long-standing problems. This city, New York City, and all of us should not be okay with what's going on in nail salons in our city and in our communities. The second thing that this bill would do would be that it would create a separate, independent committee. This would not be composed of workers or owners. It would be an independent committee of experts who will conduct an economic study of this industry and recommend fair minimum pricing for nail services. And this is really necessary to combat this race to the bottom that's happening, particularly in New York City, that's very unique than the rest of the entire nation. And this competition and this race to the bottom amongst nail salons, that's jeopardizing the well-being of workers in this industry, and it's jeopardizing the sustainability of this sector. And we want it to grow sustainably. And so I wanted to say a little bit about the pricing rather than going into the landscape. So there was a report that one of our coalition partners did. This is Workers United, New York, New Jersey Regional Joint Board. And their report that they conducted in 2020 found that wage theft was more common at salons that charge low prices. And they saw a direct correlation between what nail salons were charging for services and the wage theft that was occurring. So at salons where manicures were 15 or less, workers experienced an average of 123 in wage theft per week. And at salons where manicures are $16 and higher, workers were paid an average of $58 more than the required minimum wage. And the average cost of nail services in the New York City metro area is $13.71, the lowest in the entire nation. And we can see what impact that will have on a workforce given these results, given these findings of that report. So I'll stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you for this hearing.
Hello. Thank you for having us. My name is Lara Maljan. I'm the Associate Director at the New York Committee for Occupational Safety and Health, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the health and safety hazards that nail salon workers face. I don't think it's a surprise to anybody that nail salon workers face quite serious safety and health hazards every day on the job. They're exposed to glues, polishes, removers, and other products. They're also at risk for infection from contact with clients' infected skin, nails, or blood. Nail polishes and other products are commonly nicknamed or contain what is commonly nicknamed the toxic trio, including formaldehyde, dibutyl phthalate, and toluene. And exposure to these chemicals is known to have adverse health effects, including cancer. This toxic trio is really just the tip of the iceberg. Workers are faced with dozens of other toxins that can cause headaches, asthma, dizziness, nausea, vomiting, and more. And in 2016, a New York State Department of Health review of the chemicals used in nail salons noted that about 30 chemicals are regularly used in addition to the toxic trio. To Pabitra's very important point, I wanted to talk briefly about a survey that NICOSH did in 2022. We surveyed 142 workers in our membership, and we saw a much higher prevalence of reproductive health issues, including severe pain during menstruation, complications during pregnancy, and birth defects. We saw 20% of workers said that they had issues with their reproductive health. In comparison, in the general population, we see about 11% of women that say they have issues with reproductive health. 1 in 4 workers said that they had complications during their pregnancy. And in the US, the average is 8%, not 25%. And then 8.5% of workers said that their child was born with abnormalities. In the US, we see between 2 and 3% of infants born with birth defects. In addition to this reproductive damage, nail salon workers also experience regular wage theft on the job, which I know that a few people have talked about, and Astoria is going to talk about in just a moment as well. We saw that 82% of workers experienced wage theft, amounting to $181 of lost wages per worker per week. So we're here today because we're in support of the Nail Salon Minimum Standards Council Act as an essential piece of legislation that NICOSH urges the Labor Committee and the New York City Council to support. And, you know, Daisy, our fearless leader, already talked about, you know, what that act entails. So I will end it there. Thank you for your time. You can speak in Spanish.
Okay, my name is Sorgia. I don't speak good English, so I speak Spanish, okay? Yo he trabajado en muchos salones, más de 15 años, y siempre ha habido muchas irregularidades con nosotros, las trabajadoras. Tal vez porque somos inmigrantes, siempre hay muchas cosas que nos obligan a hacer, aparte de trabajar. Nos ponen a limpiar los salones, a soportar a clientas que tienen una mala actitud. Yo trabajé desde hace 15 años. Cuando yo llegué a este país, mi salario era por $20 al día. Yo tenía que trabajar 6 días a la semana para completar, para pagar renta y muchas cosas. Y sigue habiendo el robo de salario, porque no nos pagan lo que tienen que pagarnos, porque nos obligan a hacer un trabajo extra más, como para dar masajes. No nos dan horario para comer. A donde nos ponen a comer es un lugar muy sucio, con todos los químicos, sin tapaderas, la basura. Terminamos de trabajar, hay salones que no nos dan ni 5 minutos para comer, ni para sentarnos. Y nosotros lo que estamos peleando es porque se haga justicia, porque somos mamás y tenemos que mantener a nuestros hijos y están abusando mucho de nosotros. Bastante. No pagan ni el pago mínimo de que es $15 la hora, no lo pagan. Nos pagan, trabajamos 10 horas y nos pagan tan solo $60, $80 al día. Y en ocasiones las propinas o en los salones te dicen si das 20, 30 minutos de masaje te dan un 5, un 10% y los patrones no nos los dan. Están abusando mucho de las trabajadoras de uñas. Solo es lo que yo quiero decir, que empiece a hacer justicia por todas las trabajadoras. Gracias por su tiempo.
Gracias a usted por contar su historia. Gracias. Significa mucho para nosotros escucharla.
Gracias.
I do have, Councilman Reynolds has a question for the panel. Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you all for testifying today. I just had a question because I was looking, as you all are testifying, I was looking, is there any map, perchance, of salons where there are good practices in place or that are organized for people to know about?
We don't have such a map. I think, you know, what we're really trying to accomplish is to create the level playing field where responsible salon owners can flourish and thrive in our city. And right now, the employers that do want to do the right thing can't, because, you know, for example, we do hear from employers saying that they want to charge more so that they can, you know, meet all the operational costs and meet labor costs. But, you know, they tell us that, well, there's 2 or 3 other salons on the same block that are charging much less, and I'm going to go out of business if I raise my prices. So, we're hoping that, this bill, the state bill, will help to, really put, some regulations around that and, help responsible owners flourish.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and I understand the systemic piece that you're trying to fix. I think sometimes it's hard to know, even for a more expensive salon, it's hard to know what are the practices there and is it actually doing the right thing based on what you were saying about the correlation between low prices and wage theft. It's not always clear, and I think there are a lot of people who would want to be in solidarity. There's millions of women here. So I was just curious. Thank you so much, though.
I have an additional question about wage theft and I don't know if you can call it a success rate, but what is sort of the rate of compensation or assistance given to employers at this moment who bring wage theft claims against employers who are stealing their wages?
Sure. We don't have firm figures, and that's, there's a couple of reasons. One, it's the wage theft that's happening in this industry is so widespread. It's the last time we did a study, and then this was also with Cornell, there was wage theft amongst, in the survey, I think it was 82% of workers reported that they experienced some form of wage theft. And this is occurring, right, as Zoe mentioned, in thousands and thousands of salons. And, just the enforcement capacity is just not there, right, for the Department of Labor to go into every single salon. And, if you're talking about 80%, right, of the industry where this is happening. So I think that's a really big concern, just how widespread and rampant it is. But, in that, this was, again, this 2020 report that Workers United conducted. What we found was that the average amount of wage theft that's occurring in the industry was $9,400 per worker per year.
Thank you for your important testimony today. I think also one of the things that really jumped out at me is the reproductive issues. And I love to continue the conversation on how this council could also help shine a light on that and, maybe come up with some policy recommendations around what we could do for reproductive justice as well. Thank you so much. Gracias. Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to this panel. A last round. Is there anyone else who is interested in testifying but hasn't yet had the opportunity? Seeing no one, I'm going to turn it over to the chair for closing thoughts.
Thank you so much. I just want to thank everyone who came out today. We touched on 3 very important topics. The first one being the vacancy crisis in our city and making sure that exit interviews are a part of us solving for retention and recruitment efforts in our city. The second one being how we keep workers, especially in the trades, to keep their jobs and the manufacturing jobs here in the city. And finally, the plight of the nail salon workers in our city. And so we look forward as a committee to continue to dig deep into these issues and working to protect the city's workforce. So thank you all for coming, and this hearing is adjourned.